She says I'm her bonded husband, but I've never seen her before today. Asterisk, the rain hammered against the concrete like bullets from heaven. Jake Morrison pulled his jacket tighter as he hurried down the empty street, his footsteps echoing off. The wet pavement. The city looked different at 3 in the morning, all shadows and flickering neon signs that painted everything in sickly colors. He was almost home when he saw her. She stood perfectly still under a broken streetlight, as if the storm wasn't touching her at all. Her skin had an odd shimmer to it, like polished metal, and her hair fell in silver waves that seemed to move with their own wind. But it was her eyes that stopped him cold. They glowed with a soft blue light that cut through the darkness like twin stars. "There you are," she said, and her voice carried an accent he couldn't place. "I have been searching for you, my bonded one." Jake's heart hammered against his ribs. "I'm sorry, what?" She stepped forward, and he noticed she didn't make a sound. No footsteps, no splash of water, nothing. "You do not remember me, do you, Jake Morrison?" The way she said his name made his skin crawl. "I am Zara of the Stellar Collective. We are bound by the ancient laws of my people. Lady, I think you've got the wrong guy." Jake backed away, but she matched his movement perfectly. "I've never seen you before in my life." Something flickered across her face. Pain, maybe, or disappointment. The memory wipe was more thorough than we anticipated. But the bond remains. I can feel it pulsing between us like a living thing. The streetlight above them exploded in a shower of sparks. In the sudden darkness, her eyes blazed brighter. Jake could see markings along her neck now, geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as he watched. They weren't tattoos. They were part of her skin, glowing with the same blue light as her eyes. "What are you?" he whispered. "I am what your people would call an alien," she said simply. "But to you, I am much more. 3 years ago, you saved my life during the Proxima Station incident. In return, I performed the bonding ritual. We became linked, soul to soul." Jake's mind reeled. Proxima Station. The name hit him like a physical blow. He remembered fragments now. Flashing lights, screaming alarms, the taste of recycled air thick with smoke. And running, always running, through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. "That was just a dream," he said, but his voice shook. "I was in an accident. The doctors said I had brain damage, that I might have weird dreams for a while." Zara's expression softened. "It was not a dream, Jake. You were a maintenance engineer on Humanity's first deep space station. When the Korath attacked, you could have evacuated with the others. Instead, you stayed behind to help the alien refugees escape. You saved over 200 lives that day. And you were one of them." "I was." She reached out as if to touch his face, then stopped. "The bonding ritual is sacred among my people. When two souls connect during a moment of pure selflessness, they become eternal partners. Death cannot part them. Distance cannot weaken them. But apparently, memory wipes can make one forget." Jake stared at her, searching for any sign of deception. But there was something about her that felt familiar, like a song he'd heard in a dream. "If this is true, why can't I remember you?" "Because certain people on Earth decided that humanity was not ready to know about the Stellar Collective. They captured you during the evacuation, wiped your memories, and gave you a new identity. But they could not break our bond." Thunder rolled overhead, and Jake felt something shift inside him. A warmth spreading through his chest, like coming home after a long journey. "Prove it," he said. "If we're really bonded, prove it." Zara smiled. For the first time, and it was like watching the sunrise. "Close your eyes, Jake Morrison. Let me show you what love looks like when it crosses the stars." He closed his eyes, and suddenly he could feel it. A connection, thin as spider silk bud, strong as steel, stretching between them. And through that connection flowed memories that weren't his own. A world of crystal cities and purple skies. A woman with glowing eyes who laughed at his jokes and held his hand as they watched alien sunsets. When he opened his eyes, everything had changed. Jake stumbled backward, his head spinning with images that felt more real than his own life. Crystal spires reaching toward violet skies. The hum of technology beyond human understanding. And always, always, the woman with silver hair and glowing eyes. "This is impossible," he whispered, but even as he said it, he knew it was true. The connection between them thrummed like a living thing, warm and electric and absolutely undeniable. Zara watched him with infinite patience, as if she'd been waiting for this moment for years. "The human mind is remarkably adaptable," she said. "It can be convinced to forget almost anything. But the soul remembers what the mind cannot." "Why now?" Jake's voice cracked. "Why come for me now?" "Because Earth is in danger." Her eyes flared, brighter. "The same species that attacked Proxima Station has found your world. The Korath Dominion considers humanity a threat to their expansion. They are coming, Jake, and Earth's military doesn't even know they exist." Jake ran his hands through his wet hair, trying to process everything. "What does this have to do with me? I'm just a guy who fixes computers. I'm not some space hero." "You are more than you know." Zara moved closer, and he could feel heat radiating from her skin. "During the Proxima incident, you interfaced directly with collective technology. Your neural patterns were recorded, analyzed, enhanced. You became the first human capable of truly communicating with our systems. That's why they wiped my memory, partially, but also because what we shared terrified them. A human bonded to an alien. The implications were staggering. If other humans learned that such connections were possible, it would change everything." Jake closed his eyes, and more memories flooded back. Working alongside Zara in the station's control room, her hands moving over holographic displays with impossible grace. The moment when the Korath ships appeared on the scanners like dark angels of death. "I remember fighting," he said slowly. "We held them off long enough for the evacuation ships to escape. You were magnificent." Zara's voice was soft with remembered pride. "When the station's shields failed, you rerouted power from life support to the weapons array. We destroyed 3 Korath cruisers before they could pursue the refugees. And then the station exploded. We barely made it to the escape pods. But in those final moments, as we thought we were going to die, I performed the bonding ritual. I could not bear the thought of crossing into the afterlife without you." Jake felt tears on his cheeks that had nothing to do with the rain. "What happened to you after they took me?" "I was detained by your government for 2 years. Questioned, studied, treated like a specimen. They wanted to understand how the bonding worked, how to replicate it or prevent it. When I finally escaped, I spent another year searching for you. Your new identity was very well hidden, but you found me. The bond led me to you. No matter how far apart we are, no matter what they do to our minds, we will always find each other. That is the nature of true connection." The rain was letting up now, but Jake barely noticed. He was staring at Zara with new eyes, seeing not just the alien features, but the woman beneath them. The way she tilted her head when she was thinking. The small scar on her left hand that he somehow knew came from a childhood accident on a world called Nexus Prime. "You said Earth is in danger," he said. "What can we do about it?" Zara's expression grew grim. "The Korath fleet will arrive in 6 months. Earth's military technology is approximately 300 years behind theirs. Without help, humanity will be extinct within days of first contact." "What kind of help?" "The Stellar Collective has been watching Earth for decades. We have ships, weapons, allies, but we need a liaison, Someone who can bridge the gap between human and alien thinking. Someone who can help coordinate a defense. Jake felt a cold certainty settle in his stomach. You need me. I need you, she confirmed. But not just as a tactician or a translator. I need you because you are the only human who truly understands what we're fighting for. You've seen what the Korath do to occupied worlds. You've held the survivors in your arms and felt their pain. More memories surfaced. Refugee camps filled with beings from a dozen different species. Children who had watched their parents die. Entire civilizations reduced to scattered groups of homeless wanderers. And through it all, Zara working tirelessly to help them, to give them hope. If I do this, Jake said slowly, if I help you, there's no going back, is there? No more normal. Life, no more pretending to be just another human. No, Zara said. There is not. But Jake, you were never meant for a normal life. You were meant for this. To stand at the bridge between worlds and help shape the future of both species. Jake looked up at the clearing sky, where the first stars were beginning to show through. The clouds. Somewhere out there, an alien armada was preparing to destroy everything he'd ever known. And somehow, impossibly, he was humanity's best hope of survival. When do we start? He asked. Zara smiled, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked genuinely happy. We start now, my bonded one. We start now. The abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city looked like any other derelict building. Broken windows, rusted metal siding, weeds growing through cracks in the concrete. But as Zara led Jake through a seemingly solid wall, he realized that appearances could be very deceiving. Holographic camouflage, she explained, noticing his amazement. The collective has had a presence on Earth for much longer than your governments realize. The interior was breathtaking. Curved walls that seemed to be made of living light stretched up into shadows. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing star charts and tactical readouts in languages Jake somehow understood. And moving through it all were figures he recognized as definitely not human. Welcome to Forward Base Terra, Zara said. Your new home. A tall being with crystalline skin and 4 arms approached them. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. In a gentle breeze. So this is the bonded human. He does not look like much. Appearances can be deceiving, Vex, Zara replied coolly. As you should know better than most. Jake stepped forward, surprised to find his voice steady. I'm Jake Morrison. And you're right, I don't look like much. But I'm here to help save both our worlds. Vex's crystalline features shifted into what might have been a smile. I like this one. He has courage, even if he lacks sense. The being gestured toward a raised platform in the center of the room. Come, let us show you what you are truly facing. The platform activated the moment Jake stepped onto it, and suddenly he was floating in space. Stars wheeled around him, and he could see Earth hanging like a blue jewel in the darkness. But his attention was drawn to the red dots moving through. The void toward his home world. The Korath Dominion, Vex said, and now its voice carried a note of ancient hatred. They have been expanding across the galaxy for 10,000 years. 47 species have been completely eliminated. Thousands more have been enslaved. What makes them so dangerous? Jake asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. They do not simply conquer, Zara said, her voice tight with old pain. They corrupt. They take the strongest members of each species and transform them into weapons. My own brother leads one of their assault fleets now, though what remains of him is barely recognizable as the being I once knew. The holographic display shifted, showing massive ships that looked like mechanical spiders crossed with Gothic cathedrals. Each one was the size of a city, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. And according to the readouts, there were hundreds of them, How do we fight something like that? Jake whispered. With this, Vex said, and the display changed again. Now Jake was looking at a ship unlike anything he'd ever imagined. It was sleek and organic looking, as if it had been grown rather than built. And it was huge, easily dwarfing the Korath. Vessels. The Harmony, Zara said, and there was reverence in her voice. A ship built by the combined efforts of 12 species. It carries the hopes and dreams of every free world in the galaxy. It's beautiful, Jake said, and meant it. But it's just one ship. One ship with the power to level the playing field. Vex corrected. But it requires a crew that can think in ways the Korath cannot predict. It requires beings who can work together despite their differences, who can find strength in unity rather than domination. It requires humans, Jake realized. Specifically, it requires you, Zara said. Your neural patterns are the key to the ship's primary systems. But more than that, your species has something the Korath fear. What? Hope. The voice came from behind them, and Jake turned to see another figure approaching. This one was smaller, covered in what looked like silver fur, with large eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. I am Keeper Null. I have studied your species for many years. Hope? Jake repeated. That's it? That's our secret weapon? Do not underestimate it, Null said seriously. The Korath have conquered through fear and despair. They break their enemies' spirits before they break their bodies. But humans ... Humans have this remarkable ability to find hope in the darkest situations. To believe that things can get better even when all evidence suggests otherwise. That's not always a good thing, Jake said, thinking of all the times human optimism had led to disaster. Perhaps not, Null agreed. But it is why you are the only species that has ever successfully bonded with the collective. Your individual? Natures complement our collective consciousness. Together, we are stronger than either could be alone. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. What exactly do you need me to do? Help us recruit, Zara said. We need a crew of humans who can interface with collective technology. People who can think creatively, who can adapt to impossible situations. Your military calls them special forces, but we need more than soldiers. We need artists, engineers, teachers, dreamers. And how exactly do I find these people without alerting the government that's been covering up alien contact for years? Vex's crystalline form shimmered. With what might have been amusement, leave that to us. We have been preparing for this moment for decades. There are humans already in place, people who have been having strange dreams, experiencing odd moments of clarity. They are ready to be awakened, like I was, like you were. Zara confirmed. The bonding ritual left traces in your neural patterns. We can use those traces to identify others who might be compatible with our technology. Jake closed his eyes and felt the connection between him and Zara pulse with warm energy. Through that connection, he could sense the vastness of the collective, millions of minds linked across the galaxy in perfect harmony. And he could feel their fear, their desperate hope that humanity might be the key to stopping the Korath once and for all. How long do we have? He asked. The Korath fleet will arrive in Earth's solar system in 167 days, Null said. We need to have the Harmony fully crewed and operational by then. And if we can't, then both. Our species will join the 47 that came before us, Zara said quietly. And the galaxy will grow a little darker. Jake opened his eyes and looked around at the alien faces watching him, each one representing a different world, a different culture, a different way of thinking, but all of them united by the same desperate hope. Then we better get started, he said. The next 3 months passed in a blur of activity that would have seemed impossible to Jake just a short time ago. A hidden base beneath the city became his world, a place where the impossible was routine. and the laws of physics were more like gentle suggestions. He watched in amazement as Zara and her team identified potential recruits across the globe. A jazz musician in New Orleans who could somehow make her saxophone sing in harmonies that matched collective communication frequencies. A quantum physicist in Tokyo whose theories about parallel dimensions were actually blueprints for interdimensional travel. A street artist in Berlin whose graffiti contained mathematical equations that wouldn't be discovered by earth science for another century. How is this possible? Jake asked as they reviewed the files. How can these people know things they've never been taught? The universe is more connected than your scientists understand, Keeper Null explained. Consciousness itself is a form of energy that transcends individual minds. Some humans are naturally more sensitive to these connections. They receive information without knowing how or why. One by one, they brought the recruits to the base. Jake watched their faces as they experienced the same shock and wonder he had felt, the disbelief giving way to recognition, as if they were remembering something they had forgotten rather than learning something new. There was Captain Lisa Torres, a former Air Force pilot who had been grounded after reporting UFO sightings that were too accurate for comfort. She took one look at the collective's flight systems and began making improvements that left even vexed speechless. Dr. Kevin Park, a linguist who had been studying the mathematical basis of language, needed only minutes to master the collective's communication protocols. It's like music, he said with wonder. Each species has its own rhythm, its own melody, but together they create this incredible symphony. Rachel Kim, a teenager from Seattle who had been building impossible machines in her garage, interfaced with the ship's engineering systems as if she had been born to it. "This is what I've been dreaming about," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I was going crazy." And there were others. 57 humans in total, each one unique, each one carrying a piece of the puzzle that would either save Earth or watch it burn. Jake found himself in the strange position of being their leader, the bridge between human nature and alien technology. It wasn't a role he had asked for, but as the weeks passed, he began to understand why he had been chosen. "You see the connections," Zara told him one evening as they stood on the observation deck, watching Earth turn slowly below them. Between human and alien, between individual and collective, between hope and despair. That is why the bonding ritual chose you. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm strong enough for this," Jake admitted. "These people are trusting me with their lives, with the fate of their entire species." "Strength is not the absence of doubt," Zara said, taking his hand. "It is the ability to act despite doubt. You have that, Jake Morrison. You have always had that." The weeks turned into months, and Jake watched his. Team transform. The jazz musician learned to pilot ships that moved faster than light. The physicist began working on weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. The artist painted tactical displays that came alive with strategic possibilities. But it was the connections between them that impressed him most. Humans and aliens working together, learning from each other, creating solutions that neither could have achieved alone. It was everything the collective had hoped for and more. "The harmony is ready," Vex announced during one of their strategy sessions. "The crew is as prepared as we can make them. But Jake, there is something you must know." The crystalline being's tone sent a chill down Jake's spine. "What is it?" The Korath had accelerated their timeline. "Their advanced scouts have entered your solar system. They know about the base, about our preparations. They are coming now." Jake felt the blood drain from his face. "How long do we have?" "Perhaps 2 weeks," Keeper Null said grimly. "Possibly less." "Then we launch now," Jake said, though his heart was pounding with fear. "We take the fight to them before they can reach Earth." "Jake," Zara said gently, "the harmony is powerful, But it is still just one ship. The Korath are bringing their entire third fleet, 700 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. Then we better make sure we're ready to give them the fight of their lives, Jake said, and he was surprised to find that he meant it. The fear was still there, but it was balanced by something else. Hope, maybe. Or perhaps just the stubborn, human refusal to give up. He looked around the room at the faces of his team. Human and alien, young and old, soldiers and scientists and artists. They were as different as any group of beings could be, but they were united by something the Korath could never understand. They were united by choice, by the decision to stand together against the darkness, not because they had to, but because they wanted to, because they believed that some things were worth fighting for, even if the odds were impossible. "All right, everyone," Jake said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth. It's time to show them what humans can do when they have something worth fighting for." The cheers that went up were not just human. They came from every species represented in the room, a chorus of voices that spoke of hope and determination and the unbreakable bonds that connected all living things. Outside, the stars waited, and somewhere among them, the Korath fleet was coming. But Jake Morrison, former maintenance engineer turned humanity's last hope, was ready to meet them. The harmony was everything Jake had imagined and more. The ship seemed to pulse with life as he walked through its corridors, the walls themselves responding to his presence with gentle patterns of light. It was as if the vessel had been waiting for him, for this moment when human and alien technology would merge into something greater than either could achieve alone. "Neural interface is online," Dr. Park reported from the communication station. "I'm reading full synchronization across all human crew members." Jake nodded, though part of him was still amazed by how natural it all felt. The ship's systems spoke to him in a language he had never learned, but somehow understood perfectly. When he thought about adjusting course, the navigation responded. When he worried about shield strength, the engineering displays showed him exactly what he needed to know. "Korath fleet detected," Captain Torres announced from the pilot station. 743 vessels approaching from the outer system. They'll reach Earth in approximately 6 hours. Then we intercept them at Jupiter, Jake said, and he felt the ship respond to his decision. "We make our stand there." Zara moved to stand beside him, her hand finding his. Through their bond, he could feel her fear and her pride in equal measure. "Are you ready for this?" "I don't think anyone could be ready for this," Jake replied honestly. "But I know we're going to give them everything we have." The Harmony leaped forward, faster than light itself, crossing the solar system in moments. Jupiter loomed ahead of them, a massive ball of swirling gases that had watched over Earth for billions of years. Now it would witness humanity's first, and possibly last battle for survival. "Korath fleet dropping out of hyperspace," Torres reported. They single quotes redot, outdot Jake. There are so many of them. Jake looked at the tactical display and felt his heart sink. The enemy ships filled the void like a swarm of mechanical locusts, each one bristling with weapons that could level continents. They moved with perfect coordination, a single-minded purpose that spoke of 10,000 years of conquest. "All stations, report ready," Jake ordered, and his voice carried throughout the ship. "Weapons online," Rachel Kim called from the engineering station. "Collective energy cannons are at full charge." "Shields at maximum," reported the furry alien at the defense console. "We are as protected as we can be." "Communications are clear," Dr. Park added. "We have direct links to every resistance cell on Earth. They're watching, Jake. They're all watching." Jake took a deep breath and opened a channel to the Korath fleet. "This is Jake Morrison of the Stellar Collective Vessel Harmony. You are not welcome in this system. Turn back now and no one has to die today. The response came immediately, a voice like grinding metal and broken glass. Humans, you dare to stand against the Dominion? You are nothing but primitives playing with toys you do not understand. Stand aside, and we will make your extinction quick. I don't think so, Jake replied, and he felt the ship respond to his. Resolve, this is our home, and we're not giving it up without a fight. The Koroth commander's laughter was like the sound of bones breaking. Then you will die like all the others. Attack Formation 7. Eliminate the alien ship, then proceed to planetary bombardment. Jake watched the enemy fleet spread out in a perfect attack pattern, and for a moment, despair threatened to overwhelm him. How could one ship, no matter how advanced, stand against such numbers? Then he felt it. Through the neural link, through the bond with Zara, through the connections that tied him to every human on the ship. Hope, determination, the absolute refusal to give up that had carried humanity through ice ages and plagues and wars and disasters. All right, everyone, Jake said, his voice steady despite the fear in his heart. Let's show them what we're made of. The Harmony moved like a dancer, weaving between the Koroth ships with impossible grace. Energy beams that could shatter. Planets missed by inches as Torres pushed the ship beyond its theoretical limits. Return fire from the collective weapons tore through enemy hulls like paper, each shot guided by human intuition and alien precision. They're adapting to our attack patterns, Rachel reported. Their shields are learning to deflect our energy. Signatures. Then we adapt too, Jake said, and he felt the ship respond to his will. Switch to pattern Delta. Let them think they've figured us out. The battle raged for hours. The Harmony danced through the void, striking and vanishing and striking again. But slowly, inevitably, the numbers began to tell. There were simply too many enemy ships, too many weapons, too much raw firepower. Shields at 30%, someone reported. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Keep fighting, Jake ordered, though he could feel the ship's pain as if it were his own. We just need to buy Earth more time. That's when he felt it. A pulse through the neural link, a sensation like the sun rising after the longest night. He looked at his tactical display and couldn't believe what he was seeing. Ships, hundreds of them, dropping out of hyperspace all around the battle zone. But these weren't Koroth vessels. These were collective ships, representing dozens of species from across the galaxy. Each one bore the scars of previous battles, the marks of worlds that had fallen to the Dominion's advance. This is Fleet Commander Nexus of the Galactic Resistance, a voice said over the communication system. We received your distress signal. We are here to help. Jake felt tears streaming down his face. How? The beacon you activated when you launched, Zara said, and her voice was filled with wonder. It carried not just tactical information, but the neural patterns of the entire human crew. Every species in the collective felt it. They felt your hope, your determination, your refusal to surrender, and they remembered why they were fighting. The tide of battle turned in an instant. The Koroth fleet, caught between the Harmony and the Resistance Armada, found themselves outnumbered for the first time in their history. Ships that had conquered worlds fell to coordinated attacks from species that had learned to work together. Impossible, the Koroth commander snarled over the communication channel. You are defeated races. Broken. How can you stand against us? Because we're not fighting alone, Jake replied, and he felt the truth of it in every fiber of his being. Because we've learned that together, we're stronger than anything the universe can throw at us. The final Koroth ship exploded in a flower of fire and metal. In the sudden silence that followed, Jake could hear cheering from every ship in the fleet. Human voices mixed with alien songs, creating a symphony of victory that echoed across the void. Earth is safe, Zara whispered, and Jake felt a relief through their bond. The Dominion will think twice before attacking a world protected by the collective. Jake looked out at the stars, at the ships that had come from across the galaxy to help protect his home. He thought about the crew around him, humans and aliens working together as if they had been born to it. He thought about the future, about the possibilities that stretched ahead of them. "This is just the beginning," he said, and he knew it was true. "We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're building something new, something better. A harmony turned toward home, followed by the greatest fleet in galactic history." And somewhere in the depths of space, the Korath Dominion was learning that the age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and it had started with a man who had forgotten everything except how to hope.